Hi, how are you doing today?
Good. How you doing?
Yeah, very good, thank you very much. I'm only at one episode in, but I love this show already. I'm really gripped by it. Um, and I really like your character. And her opening scene is one of my favorites in the show. What is it about her that made you say yes to the role?
Ryan described me to her, described her, and I don't know, I hadn't, I don't, I was trying to rack my brains when he was talking to me. I was like, have I ever played someone like this? And I was like, I don't think I have. And, you know, I was one of the ones that actually knew the story. I grew up on the East Coast, and I think I was on the East Coast when it happened, and I just remember the story. I remember it creeped me out. And then of course, Ryan does years of research on these stories. So he he really sucks you in with he tells you little tidbits. And then of course you want to do it because it's him and he can tell a really scary story. And I've worked with him, I worked with him on Nip Tuck and Glee and stuff. So I had already worked with him, but many years went by, and one day I found out Ryan wanted to rent my house in New Orleans to film a couple of scenes for American Horror Story. And I was like, oh my God, this means if Ryan and I like run into each other in the yard or something, he'll maybe just give me a little role in this. But it never happened. Then here, 10 years later, I'm in a scary show. So I'm glad it took some time to convince him I could do scary, but
Absolutely. And you do it so well because, I mean, she starts off and she's a bit fun. She says exactly what's on her mind and she's a bit sweary, but then you weave in some kind of sadness and anger and danger to her. How is that working that into her makeup?
Ryan gives you enough. It really gives you enough to figure out who someone is, and it's. I found it wasn't a difficult job, but and mainly I felt like especially telling a scary story, we were only getting the script slowly, one at a time. So you really couldn't think in the future. You couldn't. In some weird way, it was an advantage because you don't know what's going to happen, and so you're not tipping off anything because you don't know what's going to come out of Ryan and Ian's head that wrote it. Yeah.
I can imagine every time you got a script, you were like eagerly like flipping through it to see what was happening in the next episode.
Yes, and I love creepy stories, but yeah, I mean, I do. We were filming. I knew, there's when we were filming, there's a cameraman. He's 10 feet away from you, so like, how could I not? How could I be creeped out? I don't know. I was even with a cameraman right that I could, almost touch. The story is creepy, and you think of what that family went through. I don't know. The whole thing is, um, you know, it's it's it would be a hard one to handle unless you had 15 pit bulls and a safe room. You know.
Absolutely. And what was it like working with Naomi on their friendship? They're like long, there's a long history to unpack there between the characters.
Yes, and Naomi is very cool. I mean, it's so weird. I think of how long I've been in the business. She's been in the business a long time, and you just have an idea in your head of who somebody is. And when I got to New York, I couldn't find an apartment and everything. And Naomi, which became a sort of really incredible ally and great friend, um, and so that was sort of very helpful for playing this. That these are two women that knew each other in art school and had gone to RISD together, so it was very easy to do the rapport. And we sat in this beautiful country club having lunches, filming lunches. You sort of, I don't know, we're fake drinking, but it could turn into real drinking at night. Anyway, it was a very cool experience with her. And she is the queen of this genre. I mean, she's been in some of the most disturbing movies of all time. I mean, I couldn't sleep after The Ring. She was like, I remember when she was in Mulholland Drive and what a big hit. She was this huge splash, and reading about her, and I mean, so it was so cool to do a job with her. And she looks the same. She looks like she's you know 20 years, 30 years younger than what she is. I mean, she's just, I don't know, she's found the fountain of youth, you know, but she is pretty young. She's not very old anyway, but yeah, what a cool person. What a cool person.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for talking with me today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Good luck with the show.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey,